The stale scent of ambition and old coffee hung heavy in the air, a familiar perfume of impending doom. "This shows you're not committed to our team, Mr. Pendleton," Mr. Ashworth droned, his voice as flat and unyielding as the granite desk separating us. He leaned back in his plush leather chair, a self-satisfied smirk playing on his lips, as if firing me was a charitable act, a noble deed for which I should be eternally grateful. "I am Alex Pendleton, and at 29, I dedicated 4 soul-crushing years of my life to Wessex Innovations, generating millions in revenue while my own bank account remained stubbornly, comically stagnant. My wardrobe still consisted of charity shop finds, and my ancient Vauxhall Corsa, a hand-me-down from my uncle, coughed and spluttered its way through the cobbled streets of Bath. Mr. Ashworth, our vice president of sales, with his bespoke Savile Row suit and a tan that screamed Caribbean beaches in deepest January, not the dreary British spring, watched me, anticipating a plea, an explanation, a dramatic outburst. "I understand," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. His perfectly sculpted eyebrows twitched, a flicker of surprise in his cold, gray eyes. It wasn't the reaction he'd rehearsed. "You're terminated, effective immediately. Please clear your desk. Miss Albright will escort you to HR for your exit paperwork." I nodded, stood, and extended my hand across the vast expanse of his desk. He hesitated, then took it, his grip limp. "Thank you for the opportunity," I offered, a polite lie that tasted like ash. The walk back to my desk felt like a procession of the condemned. The open plan office, usually a cacophony of keyboard clacks and hushed phone calls, was eerily silent. Heads remained bowed, but I could feel the prickle of eyes, furtive glances following my every move. News, especially bad news, traveled faster than a London Underground train. I pulled a cardboard box from the supply room, its emptiness mirroring my own. There wasn't much to pack. A chipped mug, a gift from my younger sister, Daisy. A handful of pens that, miraculously, still wrote, and my defiant little succulent, Spike, which had somehow defied the relentless fluorescent gloom for 3 years. 4 years of my life, distilled into a box smaller than a microwave oven. Miss Albright, HR's sternest enforcer, hovered nearby, her keys jangling a nervous rhythm, watching me as if I might pocket the stapler or set fire to my cubicle on my way out. I'd single-handedly brought in over £2 million in new business last quarter alone. 2 million. And they suspected me of pilfering office supplies. As I headed towards the lifts, the doors hissed open and out stepped Mr. Davies, my direct supervisor. Mr. Davies, the man who'd routinely claimed credit for half my deals, the man who'd assured me countless times that my long-overdue raise was in process, just awaiting Mr. Ashworth's elusive approval. He avoided my gaze, mumbling, "Do ensure you hand in your badge at security," before retreating into the sanctuary of his office. I stepped into the lift, my badge already in my hand. As the doors silently closed, I caught my reflection in the polished metal. I didn't look fired. I didn't look angry. I looked lighter, as if a crushing weight had been lifted from my shoulders, a burden I hadn't even realized I was carrying. I had joined Wessex Innovations straight out of university, armed with a business degree from Bristol and a perfectly respectable, if unremarkable, GPA. My secret weapon wasn't academic brilliance, but an innate ability to connect with people, to truly listen, to unearth their needs and find elegant solutions. My father, bless his pragmatic soul, always said, "A good salesman sells products. A great salesman solves problems." Dad had spent 3 decades in the trenches of pharmaceutical sales, missing countless school plays and football matches, but ensuring we never wanted for anything. When I landed the Wessex job, he'd beamed with pride, declaring it a solid company with room to grow. For the first 2 years, I believed him. I worked 60-hour weeks, devoured every shred of information about industrial automation, and meticulously cultivated relationships with manufacturing clients across the Midlands. I won Rookie of the Year, then Top Performer the following year. I genuinely believed I was building a future, brick by laborious brick. Then I watched Mr. Davies, whose sales figures were consistently half of mine, get promoted over me. He has more management experience, they'd offered as an excuse. Then I watched him claim credit for the prestigious Blackwood deal, a client I'd painstakingly nurtured for 6 months. Then he got a company car, a gleaming, top-of-the-range Jaguar. It started with small things, meeting invitations that somehow bypassed my inbox, crucial client information reaching me a day too late, insidious comments in team meetings disguised as helpful critiques. Are you sure that's the right approach for this client, Alex? 1,000 tiny cuts, day after relentless day. I kept my head down, kept working, kept delivering, until last month, when I finally closed the Abbott manufacturing deal, a £2 million contract, our biggest of the year. I'd flown to Glasgow 3 times on my own dime because the company refused to justify the expense. I'd worked weekends, missed my cousin's wedding, all to make it happen. When the contract was signed, Mr. Ashworth took the team out for celebratory drinks. Everyone except me. I discovered it through their grinning Instagram posts the next day. When I finally mustered the courage to ask about a raise, my third attempt, Mr. Ashworth informed me the timing wasn't right. The company, he explained with a dismissive wave of his hand, was restructuring compensation packages. That night, for the first time in 4 years, I updated my CV. A week later, Miss Willow Jenkins, a former Wessex client who'd moved to Regent Publishing, reached out on LinkedIn. "We should catch up," she wrote. We had coffee. She casually mentioned they were seeking someone to head their new business development division, someone with technical sales experience, someone like me. I took a single holiday day, a day I had earned, for the interview. Someone saw me in the lobby of the Regent building and reported it to Mr. Davies. That was yesterday. I sat in my battered Corsa in the Wessex Innovations car park for nearly an hour after security confiscated my badge. Just sat there, the engine idling, the air conditioning doing its best against the oppressive summer heat, staring at the building where I'd poured 4 years of my life. 4 years of early mornings and late nights, 4 years of "we'll take care of you" and "you're part of the family" and "just hang in there." My phone buzzed. A text from Mr. Davies. "Sorry about how things went down. Just following protocol." I switched off my phone without responding and drove home. My tiny flat in Clifton Village felt different when I walked in. Emptier, somehow, even though nothing had physically changed. I dropped my cardboard box onto the kitchen counter and opened a bottle of craft ale. Then I sank onto my worn sofa and did something I hadn't done in years. Absolutely nothing. No emails to check, no calls to return, no proposals to review. I just sat there, nursing my beer, watching the late afternoon light spill across my living room wall. Around 7, I switched my phone back on. 3 missed calls from my parents, a frantic text from Daisy asking if I was all right. Apparently, Mr. Davies had called her, looking for me, a boundary I hadn't even known existed, let alone could be so brazenly crossed, and an email from Miss Jenkins at Regent Publishing. "Can you come in tomorrow? 10 of the team would like to meet you." I responded with a single word. "Yes." Then I called my parents. "They did you a favor," my father said, after I'd recounted the day's events. Not the reaction I'd expected. "How so, Dad?" "They showed you exactly who they are, son. No more illusions. No more maybes. Now you know." He was right. All those times I'd given them the benefit of the doubt. All those times I'd blamed myself for not working hard enough, not being visible enough, not playing the corporate game well enough. All those times I'd swallowed my pride and kept pushing forward because I foolishly believed loyalty meant something. It didn't. Not to them. I'd been fired for taking one day, a day I'd earned, to seek what they would never give me. Fair compensation, respect, a future. My mother came onto the line, her voice laced with concern. "What do you need, sweetheart? Shall we come down this weekend?" "No," I said, a sudden clarity washing over me. "I'm okay. Actually, I think this might be the best thing that could have happened." and I meant it. For the first time in a long while, I felt something other than bone-deep exhaustion, something other than that low-grade anxiety that had become my constant companion. I felt free. That night, I slept better than I had in months. In the morning, I put on my best suit, the one I'd bought for important client meetings that Mr. Ashworth always seemed to hijack. I looked good, rested, ready. The interview at Regent Publishing exceeded all expectations. They'd already checked my references, already spoken to 3 of my former clients, including Abbott Manufacturing. They knew precisely what I was worth. They offered me the position on the spot, Regional Director of Business Development, double my Wessex salary, plus a generous commission structure. I accepted without a moment's hesitation. "When can you start?" Miss Jenkins asked, a warm smile gracing her lips. I returned her smile. "Immediately." I signed the contract with Regent on Friday afternoon and started the following Monday. They gave me an office with a proper door and a window overlooking the bustling streets of Bristol, a company credit card, a small but eager team of 3 sales associates, and, most importantly, something Wessex Innovations never had, a clear path forward. "We want you to grow this division, Alex," Miss Jenkins explained. "Build it from the ground up. Your reputation with clients is why we hired you." For the first 2 weeks, everything was perfect. I quickly learned the new systems, met my team, and began to formulate a comprehensive strategy. I even sent LinkedIn connection requests to my former colleagues at Wessex. Most accepted. A few sent congratulatory messages. Mr. Davies and Mr. Ashworth, predictably, remained silent. I didn't care. I was too busy savoring the feeling of finally being where I belonged. Then the letter arrived. Thick, cream-colored paper, embossed with the familiar Wessex Innovations logo, a cease and desist letter. "Mr. Pendleton is in violation of his non-compete agreement," it read, its legalese cold and menacing. "He is hereby ordered to terminate his employment with Regent Publishing immediately or face severe legal action." A non-compete agreement. I'd never signed one. I was absolutely certain of it. I called Regent's legal department in a rising panic. "Don't worry, Mr. Pendleton," the solicitor, a calm, reassuring voice named Mrs. Davies, no relation to that Mr. Davies, said, "Send me all your onboarding paperwork from Wessex. We'll handle this." I went home that night and rummaged through my old files. My original offer letter, my employment agreement, my most recent performance review. Nothing. Not a single mention of a non-compete. No restrictions on future employment. The next day, Wessex's solicitors sent over a document with my signature on it. A non-compete agreement, dated 3 years ago, right after my Rookie of the Year award. It restricted me from working for any competitor within 100 miles of Wessex for 1 year after leaving their employment, but I hadn't signed it. The signature looked uncannily like mine, but I had no recollection, no memory whatsoever of ever seeing this document. Did you ever sign anything during a performance review? Perhaps something they told you was routine? Mrs. Davies asked, her voice thoughtful. I cast my mind back. 3 years ago, my first performance review after the award, Mr. Ashworth had handed me a stack of papers. "Just standard paperwork updates," he'd said with a dismissive wave. "Sign at the flags." I'd trusted him. "They're claiming Regent is a direct competitor," Mrs. Davies continued, breaking into my thoughts. "Which is quite a stretch, considering you sell publishing equipment and they sell industrial automation. But they're pressing hard. This could get expensive." "Will I lose my job?" I asked, the familiar knot of anxiety tightening in my stomach. "Not if I can help it," she replied, her voice firm. "But be prepared. They might try to drag your reputation through the mud." This felt personal. It was personal. The very next day, I received an email from one of my biggest former clients at Wessex, Mr. Edward. "Just had a strange call from your old boss," it read. "He implied you took proprietary client information when you left. Wanted to know if you'd contacted me. I told him you'd always conducted yourself with integrity. What's going on?" I forwarded the email to our legal team, my hands trembling with a cold, righteous fury. They weren't just trying to stop me from working. They were trying to destroy my reputation, the very thing that had made me valuable, despite their own relentless efforts to minimize me. That evening, my phone rang, an unfamiliar number. "Alex, this is Brenda from accounting at Wessex," a hushed, nervous voice whispered. "I'm not supposed to be calling you, but you were always decent to me. You need to know something. They're saying you stole client files, but it's not true. I saw Mr. Ashworth in the server room the day after you left. He was downloading your entire client folder. Then he deleted the original files and told everyone you must have taken them." "Would you be willing to tell that to my solicitor?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "I can't," she said, her voice cracking. "I need this job. I just thought you should know what you're up against." She hung up before I could thank her. I sat in my new office, staring out the window at the vibrant Bristol skyline, and realized this wasn't going to be as simple as walking away. They weren't going to let me succeed. They were going to drag me back down. And for the first time since I'd been fired, I was genuinely, incandescently angry. The legal battle dragged on for weeks. Regent Publishing stood by me, unwavering in their support, but the stress was taking its toll. Every day brought a fresh accusation from Wessex: client theft, corporate espionage, breach of contract. It was as if they were throwing every conceivable accusation against the wall, hoping something, anything, would stick. "We need to find leverage," Mrs. Davies said during one of our increasingly frequent meetings. "Right now, it's your word against theirs about the non-compete, and even though we strongly suspect it's forged, proving it will be incredibly expensive." I nodded, my mind replaying Brenda's hushed confession about the client files, about Mr. Ashworth in the server room. There was a clear pattern emerging here, a chilling willingness to lie, to manipulate, to fabricate evidence. "What about my commission payments?" I asked suddenly, a thought sparking in my mind. The last quarter I was there, I brought in the Abbott deal. £2 million. My commission should have been substantial, but my final paycheck was just my normal salary. No bonus, no commission. Mrs. Davies's eyes lit up. "Good. That's something concrete we can look into." That evening, I received a text from Mr. Davies. "We should talk. Not about the legal stuff. It's important." Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him at a small, unassuming coffee shop halfway between our offices. He looked dreadful. Dark circles under his eyes, his usually immaculate shirt rumpled, none of his customary polished appearance. "I can't be tied to this conversation," he began, his voice low and urgent as soon as he sat down. "I could lose everything." I just waited, my gaze steady. "The non-compete," he continued, taking a shaky sip of his coffee. "It's not just you. Mr. Ashworth has been doing this for years, gets people to sign routine paperwork during reviews, then adds pages later. The signatures are real, but the documents aren't what people actually signed." "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, my voice devoid of emotion. He looked down at his coffee, stirring it aimlessly. "Because you're not the first person they've done this to, but you're the first one who fought back. And they're scared." "Why would they be scared of me? I just want to do my job." Mr. Davies leaned forward, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "It's not about you. It's about the money. The commission structure at Wessex isn't what anyone thinks it is. The percentages in our contracts, they're not real. Mr. Ashworth has been skimming from every major deal for years. That's why they're coming after you so hard. They're afraid you'll figure it out." My mind reeled. All those deals, all that money, the commissions that never quite seemed to match my calculations, the bonuses that were always less than promised due to adjustments and overhead allocations that were never clearly explained. "How do you know this?" I demanded. "I found the real books. By accident, I was looking for a client file on Mr. Ashworth's computer when he stepped out for a meeting. His spreadsheets were open. 2 sets of commission calculations, the real ones, and the ones actually paid out. The difference went into an account labeled Executive Performance Fund. And you didn't say anything? Mr. Davies's face flushed a deep crimson. I confronted him. He offered me a cut, said it was standard practice, that the senior team had always done it this way, said I'd earned my place at the table. So, you took it? I pressed. He didn't deny it. I have a mortgage. Kids in private school. I told myself it was just how business worked. Then why tell me now? Because they're not just coming after you. They're setting you up. Mr. Ashworth told the board you manipulated the Abbott contract numbers, that you inflated the deal to get a bigger commission. That's why they're saying you stole files to cover up the fraud. They're pinning on you. A chilling wave swept over me. But that's completely false. Abbott can verify the contract value. They've already started creating a paper trail, backdated emails, revised contracts. They're thorough, Alex, and they have resources. I studied Mr. Davies's face, searching for any sign of deception. Why should I believe you? You've never been on my side before. He pulled out his phone. Because I kept receipts. He showed me a series of screenshots, commission spreadsheets, email exchanges, bank transfers, all of it proving exactly what he described. Send those to me, I said, my voice barely a whisper. If I do, I'm finished at Wessex, probably in this industry altogether. You already are, I replied, my gaze unwavering. The only question is whether you go down with them or help me expose this. Mr. Davies stared at me for a long, agonizing moment, then, with a deep sigh, began forwarding the emails. The evidence Mr. Davies provided changed everything, not just for my case, but potentially for dozens of former and current Wessex employees who'd been systematically cheated out of their rightful commissions. The scheme had been running for years, affecting potentially millions in compensation. This is much bigger than a non-compete dispute, Mrs. Davies declared, her voice now brimming with a steely resolve, when I presented her with Mr. Davies's documents. This is systematic fraud. But we had a problem. Mr. Davies wasn't willing to go on record. The screenshots and forwarded emails, while damning, would be considered hearsay without his direct testimony, and Wessex Innovations had deep pockets for legal battles. They could tie this up in court for years. We need more, she said, tapping a pen against her legal pad. We need someone with direct knowledge who's willing to testify. I thought about Brenda from accounting, but she was too scared of losing her job. I needed someone who had nothing left to lose, or better yet, someone who had already lost. That night, I made a list of everyone who had left Wessex Innovations in the past 2 years. People who had quit suddenly or been fired under suspicious circumstances. People who, like me, might have started asking inconvenient questions about their commissions. One name stood out, Mr. Reginald Thorne, former top performer in the northern region, who had abruptly resigned last year amidst whispers of a drinking problem. I'd never believed those rumors. Reggie was a dedicated family man, a pillar of his local church, and one of the most straight-laced guys I knew. I found him on LinkedIn. He was working for a small, independent consultancy now, earning significantly less than he would have at Wessex. I sent him a message. Need to talk about Mr. Ashworth and commissions at Wessex. It's important. He responded within minutes. I've been waiting for this call. We met the next day at a quiet cafe in Harrogate. Reggie didn't look like a man with a drinking problem. He looked like a man who'd been carrying a crushing burden. They fired me because I found the spreadsheets, he said without preamble, his eyes weary but clear. Same ones Mr. Davies showed you, but I went further. I documented everything, tracked the money. It wasn't just commissions. It was expense account fraud, kickbacks from vendors, inflated project costs. Mr. Ashworth and the chief financial officer, Mr. Giles, had a whole system. Do you have proof? I asked, my heart hammering in my chest. Reggie nodded. I have everything. Bank records, emails, the works. I was building a case to take to the board when Mr. Ashworth found out. Next thing I knew, there were whispers about my drinking problem. Then a client complained about me showing up to a meeting intoxicated, a meeting I never even attended. 2 weeks later, I was out. Why didn't you fight back? Go to the authorities. They threatened my family. Alex. His voice was steady, but his hands, clasped on the table, trembled slightly. Nothing direct, just a conversation about how my wife's teaching job at St. Augustine School might be in jeopardy if I made trouble. How my kids might not be welcome back at their grammar school. They have connections. They made that very clear. I felt sick to my stomach. But you kept the evidence? Every bit of it. On an encrypted drive, off-site. I've been waiting for someone else to notice. Someone they couldn't threaten the same way. Someone like me, I said, the realization dawning. Reggie nodded. You don't have a family they can threaten. You've already been fired. And most importantly, you've got Regent Publishing behind you. They have resources, too. We spent the next 3 hours poring over Reggie's evidence. It was damning, not just for Mr. Ashworth and Mr. Davies, but for half the executive team at Wessex Innovations. They'd been systematically defrauding their own sales force of millions in commissions for at least 5 years. We need to take this to the authorities, I said, a fire igniting within me. This is criminal. I'm ready, Reggie replied, his gaze firm. But we need to be smart. These people won't go down without a fight. That night, I called Miss Jenkins and explained everything. This could get messy, I warned her. I understand if Regent wants to distance themselves. Her response surprised me. Distance ourselves, Alex, she scoffed, a rare note of anger in her usually composed voice. We hired you because of your integrity. We're not just going to support you. We're going to help you end this. Wessex has been operating unethically for years, hurting the whole industry. It's time someone stood up to them. For the first time since this ordeal began, I felt like I might actually win. The case broke wide open faster than anyone expected. With Reggie's ironclad evidence and Regent Publishing's formidable legal resources, we didn't just file a countersuit against Wessex. We took everything to the Serious Fraud Office and the Crown Prosecution Service. The investigation moved with astonishing speed. Bank records were subpoenaed. Witnesses were deposed. Former employees, emboldened by our actions, came forward with their own chilling stories of manipulation and fraud. 3 weeks after our initial filing, federal agents walked into Wessex Innovations headquarters with warrants. I wasn't there to see it, but Mr. Davies called me that evening. They took everything, he said, his voice hollow, defeated. Computers, servers, files. Mr. Ashworth was escorted out in front of everyone, the CFO too. I said nothing, letting his words hang in the air. I've been suspended pending investigation, he continued, a tremor in his voice. They're saying I could face criminal charges. You probably will, I replied, my voice flat. But your cooperation will count for something. A week later, Wessex Innovations officially dropped their lawsuit against me. 2 days after that, their stock plummeted when news of the fraud investigation hit the business press. Former employees, a veritable army of them, began filing a class action lawsuit for unpaid commissions. Clients, understandably, started jumping ship, unwilling to be associated with the burgeoning scandal. Through it all, I kept my head down and focused on building my division at Regent. I didn't give interviews. I didn't gloat on social media. I just did my job. Then one morning, I received an email from Mr. Ashworth's personal account. We should talk. I can explain everything. Meet me for lunch. I forwarded the email to Mrs. Davies without responding. The next day, the Bristol Business Journal published a front-page story. Wessex Innovations CEO and executive team stepped down amid fraud allegations. There was Mr. Ashworth's photograph, looking pale and drawn, next to a quote from the newly appointed board chairman. We are cooperating fully with authorities and are committed to making this right. I closed the browser tab and went back to work. 3 months to the day after I was fired, The court ordered Wessex Innovations to pay me £147,000 in back commissions plus damages. The check arrived by courier the following week. I didn't cash it immediately. I just set it on my desk and looked at it, not because I needed the validation, but because I wanted to remember what it had truly cost to get here, the truth. 1 year later, I stood confidently in front of the Regent Publishing sales team, presenting our quarterly results. We had doubled our division's revenue, expanded into 2 new markets, and, most importantly, built a reputation for honesty and transparency with our commission structure. This very reputation was attracting top talent from across the industry, including 3 former Wessex employees who had been part of the class action settlement. The news about Wessex Innovations had faded from the headlines. Mr. Ashworth and Mr. Giles had taken plea deals. Mr. Davies had avoided jail time by cooperating with prosecutors, but his career in sales was effectively over. The company itself had been acquired by a competitor at a fraction of its former value. I rarely thought about any of them anymore. After the meeting, Miss Jenkins pulled me aside. "Board approved your promotion to vice president, effective next month." I thanked her, genuinely grateful, but not surprised. We had built something real here, something that worked. That evening, I drove my old Vauxhall Corsa to my parents' house for dinner. They had moved to Bath 6 months ago, partly to be closer to me, partly because my father was finally ready to retire. He had followed the Wessex Innovations story closely, often more invested in my vindication than I was myself. "Proud of you, son," he said as we sat on his back patio after dinner, the setting sun casting long shadows through the trees. "Not because you won, but because you did it right. Didn't let them make you bitter. Didn't let them change who you are." I nodded, watching the last slivers of light disappear. "It was never about getting back at them, Dad." "I know," he said, a gentle smile on his face. "It was about the truth." We sat in comfortable silence for a while, enjoying the peaceful evening. "So," he finally said, a twinkle in his eye, "Vice President, eh? Does this mean you're finally going to buy a new car?" I laughed. "Maybe, but I think I'll keep the Corsa a little longer. It reminds me of something important." "What's that?" "That the fastest way up isn't by cutting corners. It's by building something that lasts." My father raised his glass. "I'll drink to that." And so did I.